I always remind myself, why are we here? We're here for the developers. But in terms of expectation, right, what the reporting tells us is that Apple will open up the LLMs it's been working on to third-party developers. That seems very important.
It is absolutely critical because that's, at the end of the day, how developers will take advantage of the core of Apple Intelligence going forward and how they can do that on-device in a private and secure way, if they want so, and differentiate what they can do with others like ChatGPT, OpenAI, and so forth.
If you accept that Apple is behind in AI, why would the step of opening up access to developers to the work it has done in AI remedy that?
I don't know if it remedies, but it preps for the future, right? It is about allowing developers to take advantage of AI within their applications. And if there's one thing that I think we can all agree with, is that the ecosystem from a developer perspective at Apple has always been the thing that got consumers engaged with their devices and kept them where they are. So it is important.
We have the App Store today for a reason and everything that's inside of it.
Absolutely, and that's what Apple is trying to do, to continue, especially as the pressure, if you're thinking about what Microsoft is trying to do, they're very clear that coming out of Build last month, they want developers to look at Microsoft as the future of development.
Let's think about specifics. One of the things we might hear today is translation across iMessage calls and live simultaneous translation. But the good thing about talking to you on WWDC days is you and I go to all the same conferences, particularly developers conferences, and I've got deja vu, or at least I distinctly remember Meta talking about exactly the same thing. They've done it.
And Google did too, at some level, right? So I think part of it is catching up, part of it is trying to give consumers what they want. If you're looking specifically at the US market, there are a lot of people who are bilingual. And so translation, although we sometimes just narrow it down to, when I go on holiday somewhere, is actually more important on day-to-day.
What we're expecting are largely interface changes. What will that tell us about how Apple thinks consumers, knowledge workers, engage with AI in the future from like a human to device perspective?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think that there are probably two things maybe three things that they're trying to address. One, there were some changes that came last year that consumers were not particularly happy with. Photo is a good example, for instance. And the second thing is that this is probably the biggest redesign, as Mark was saying, since iOS 7. So it's been a long time, which means that for some users, this is the first time that they're going to use iOS and other OSs in a different way. So trying to take away friction, but not actually changing things so that you have a learning curve all of a sudden is going to be one thing. The other part is there's much more cross-device usage. So trying to make that easier so that AI actually is useful across all Apple devices and getting out of the way so that AI can actually shine.
We go from iOS version number to iOS year version number. It's just like the car companies do. Yeah. And just like the car companies, they always go 1 year ahead. So what we might get is the 2026 year. How do you feel about that?
I think that with AI, we're going to see changes on a faster cadence, as we have seen with all the models that have been released over the past 6 months. So, anchoring in what the core of DOS is going to do for a year and then having updates throughout the year. Yes, absolutely.